It was good. YouTube was good. It was good. So me and my uncle we back with another review. Now, initially, we do reactions, but like we said, when we did that last review of Spider Man, we were actually saying that we were actually going to, or not even necessarily a review. When we did the reaction to the to the latest trailer, we was like, you know what, we're gonna watch it and then we're gonna review it. All right. So you got to say,
Yeah, what I liked about the Spider-Man Brand New Day was the different parallels they had between you know s- connecting the movies. Like they paid homage to like certain
hmm
Spider-Mans, like Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man,
hmm
and so on and so forth. It's like and the relationship
yeah,
between it was like a full circle moment, the relationship between Spider-Man, MJ, and Ned. Like
yep,
once you see how they did it, like they forgot about him because Doctor Strange cast a spell
hmm
in the last Spider-Man, but the way they did it and then how it came about in the end,
hmm
it was like they was the ones that only knew about him, besides the Punisher knew his real identity.
yeah, exactly. And like we said, I'm gonna just piggyback off of what he's saying, especially when it comes to like the relationship between Peter, MJ, and Ned. Now, I do like the fact that it was kind of like a full circle moment. Now, spoiler alert, because clearly like this is another thing, we're gonna put that in the title, because I know a lot of y'all probably didn't see it yet, or if y'all super big Spider-Man fans like me and my uncle, like yeah, we y'all definitely seen it by now. So, but I did like like he said, the parallels between like the two movies. Like for instance, like they had the like the scene like with the Andrew Garfield movies, like when Gwen Stacy was falling at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2. So they referenced that again, and if y'all remember, they actually referenced that. Remember when they referenced that in what was the what's that? No Way Home. Yeah, it
Uh,
was No Way Home. The one
okay.
when they brought back the older Spider-Man and everything like that. Another addition that I did like was the fact that they implemented the Punisher in there, because we all know that the Punisher is more so like he's more like a rated R type of character, but
Right.
I still like the way that they kind of like was able to kind of like integrate him into like the Spider-Man lore without it feeling forced. You hear
Yeah,
me?
it was like it was their relationship definitely seemed natural. It was like it basically it seemed it was really believable. Like
Mhm.
how they connected. You know.
Yeah, because it came across as like, didn't it come across as like like big brother, little brother?
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
came
Right.
across as big brother, little brother. What else? You had do, oh, another thing. Now, my uncle, he was actually telling me that prior to the movie, like he actually seen the spoiler that Jean Grey. This is another spoiler. Jean
Right.
Grey is actually in the movie.
Right.
She's in the movie. And pretty much like she's upset with so there's this organization by the name of Damage Control. Damage Control is pretty much an organization that, they create weapons, or I guess you could say like, certain weapons and certain gadgets to like stabilize, you know, I guess you could call superheroes or like people with powers, whether that be villains or, I guess you could say superheroes, you
Yeah,
know?
but first damage control was initially came about from the Avengers when they
hmm
had the what they call an incident, and it
hmm
was the whole catastrophe in New York. They was like the cleanup crew initially,
Yeah.
so that's where they picked up all the gadgets and stuff. They picked up some gadgets from that, and then
hmm
that goes into homecoming
hmm
where the vulture had
hmm
grabbed some of the gadgets. He had a crew that was taking gadgets and stuff from damage control and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, he will have more knowledge about the, when it comes to like the Avengers and everything like that, because like I said, like still to this day, I haven't watched any of like, well, aside from the first Avengers, and I watched, clearly like Captain America, um, the second movie, Winter Soldier. Like aside from
Mm.
that, like I never truly watched like any like Avengers type movies. And I know Captain America is a standalone movie, but the Avengers, they always typically show up in in those movies. But pretty much like Damage Control, like um, pretty much the story goes that Jean Grey, she wants revenge against Damage Patrol because they took her sister. They pretty much like abducted her sister, because they wanted to like test her, test her out because, because of the powers and everything like that. Because we already, if we watch X-Men, we already know that Jean Grey, her powers is kind of like, she could control people, read people's minds, jump from body to body,
Right.
And everything like that. Sort of like Professor X in a way,
Right.
So,
And then talking about Professor X, that reminded me about like how they did her powers when she went OP. It was kind of like how when he was sick with dementia and back in Logan,
Logan,
and then he had just his powers had pretty much paralyzed like a couple like a 20-mile radius or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
how far it's expanded, but it was like she pretty much paralyzed all of Manhattan or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And another thing that that I also liked is Peter. He's like his spider DNA. He's actually turning into a spider. That's like another thing. Like he was kind of like turning into a spider,
Right.
and his arachnid. They were saying that his arachnid DNA was actually like building. Like it was actually he was legit turning into a spider.
Right, and then that also, like when you said that, I remember when he had kind of like got his spider sense, but like was enhanced.
Yeah, it was
Kind of
enhanced.
reminded me of like Man of Steel when Superman first had, when Superman first got his powers or realized he got his powers, and then everything was just too overwhelming for him to like bear, and he couldn't contain it.
Yeah, because it was definitely like a scene where like he said, like there was a scene where it was just too much for him to take in. Like literally, it was just too much for him to take in, and then it's like, so he kind of had to create a chip. Actually, he created a chip to stabilize his DNA to kind of like, the more his arachnid DNA kind of rolls, like once he installed that chip, it was pretty much designed to stabilize it and actually bring it down. So he didn't want to fully become, the spider.
And that chip, like how he put it in the back of his neck or whatever, that kind of reminded me of like Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire and Doc Ock, and how he had that chip or whatever, and then this is what.
Yeah, because I remember when he had that chip and he was doing like the presentation for like the arms, and like that was in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2, and and then everything just kind of went wrong. Another addition that I like, which is actually another thing that they kind of had spoiled, like now, just going back to like the Jean Grey thing, like now luckily I actually didn't know that Jean Grey was in the movie. I only knew that it was a Punisher, and then also the Hulk, like because clearly like you remember from like the advertisements and everything, but I didn't know Jean Grey was in it. It was my uncle, and then my girl, she actually had told me as well.
Yeah, it was just people, just the rumors talking about they that she was gonna be in it, and then like they were spoiling the trailer low key when that pulse went across the city, and then everybody got stunned and it was like paralyzed or whatever. So then when that happened and I heard the rumors, I was like, yeah, she definitely gonna be in the movie.
Yep.
For sure. I knew it was gonna be,
Yeah. And I also like how they they made a parallel between Spider-Man and Jean Grey, like the way that they're looked at. It's similar to like, X-Men with like the mutants and everything like that. But I like how, because for like the entire movie, she was trying to like, Spider-Man was the only body that she wasn't able to possess, But I like at the end, when he finally, found out that Damage Control wasn't really like a good organization, like I like how at the end he finally allowed Jean Grey to be able to like go into his mind, and he actually used the words that Aunt May, like the words that Aunt May kind of like used, like those words of encouragement and everything like that. Those same words that she used for Peter was actually taken and applied to Jean Grey, and I actually like how they kind of like did that, because they used
it was basically like when she got into his mind, she realized that he she wasn't the only one that took a
Deals with.
major loss, and
Mhm.
like as far in life, like her losing her sister.
Mhm.
Like he lost his aunt. Like they could relate. They didn't have anybody to like count on no
Mhm.
more. So they pretty much decided to count on each other at that time.
Hmm. Yeah, and I do like that, and like I said, even going back to what's that? Because I mentioned the Hulk not too long ago. I like the fact that they implemented, the Hulk, and they actually, she took over the Hulk, and I'm not gonna lie, when he turned into like the Hulk, that looked like the Ed Norton version of him, like like the big
Right. Yeah.
Incredible Hulk. Like it's like he turned in. It wasn't just the Hulk. He turned into like the Incredible Hulk,
Right.
So that was actually like a nice, um, homage, low key. What else? Oh yeah, the post credit scene. The
Right.
post now the thing is with that, it wasn't necessarily like a scene. It was just kind of like this. So Ned, he actually had like this tracker that he would use. Like he basically had this tracker that he would use that would kind of like indicate whether Spider-Man is close or not. So if Spider-Man was like within like the general vicinity, like it'll actually tell him like, oh yeah, Spider-Man is close. Spider-Man is close.
Right.
Now, at the end of the movie, like this is the post credits, like it took that same tracker that Ned created, and it basically showed. It pretty much showed new Spider-Man detected, pretty much new Spider-Man detected, and it went from Earth all the way to space, like to the middle of space. Now, me, I kind of was thinking to myself, I was like, maybe this is kind of like a Venom or like a Carnage reference, because I look at it like this: the only other characters that could be mistaken as Spider-Man that come from outer space
Right.
is either Venom or Carnage.
Right.
So what did you think when you seen it?
It could have been either that or like a hint to like
The new Avengers?
maybe the new Avengers
Yeah.
movie, Doomsday, maybe them going or the multiverse in
Mhm.
itself. It could be like talking about a hint to like a multiverse kind of Spider-Man, like whether it be what's his name the
Who?
the
The new
no Miles Morales, or
Morales,
something
yeah.
like the
Uh-huh.
in the Spider Verse or something like that. It could be like a multiverse Spider-Man or something like that. That's what I thought when I seen that.
Yeah, that's the one thing I like about like endings like that, because you could brainstorm, and like you could kind of like come up with your theories about like who do you think it could possibly be. But like I said, mine's is just either Venom or Carnage. Because I look at it like those are the only two that could really be mistaken as Spider-Man. Like if a Spider-Man tracker was to pick up, you know, anything else other than Spider-Man, I would think that it would be Venom or Carnage. But like I said, it could be anything. It could be anything. But I'm excited to see what happens. And clearly at the end it also said that like Spider-Man is going to return as well. So we definitely should be expecting another Spider-Man in the near future, maybe next 2-3 years from now. But another thing I heard that what's that, Zendaya and Tom Holland, they actually said that they're going to be taking a break away, taking a break from acting. That's
Right.
one thing that I heard, because I mean, they've been everywhere low key, because they was actually in that new what's that movie?
Odyssey.
Odyssey. Yeah, they was in that. So I'm like, yeah, they was working a lot, So, but other than that, like what's that? I think we definitely gonna end it there. Like I said, we definitely enjoy what we seen. We definitely looking forward to
And
more
the
Marvel
rating,
movies.
which would you rate it? Like out of all the Spider-Man movies that you've seen,
Out of
like you think it's the best one, or or is it up there, like in the top 3, or what you think?
So hold up. So am I rating it out of every single Spider-Man movie, or out of every single Tom Holland Spider-Man movie?
I would say every Spider-Man movie, just a wide range of Spider-Man movies.
Mhm.
Like to me, out of all the Spider-Man movies, like it's definitely in my top 3. Like
Mhm.
I would say like Spider-Man 2,
Mhm.
this one, and the 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 first Amazing Spider-Man with the lizard. So
Okay.
those are my top 3.
Okay. I would say out of all of mine, I like the very first one with Tobey Maguire. I just now started going back to Spider-Man 2, like the Sam Raimi one, because they say that they actually say that's the best superhero movie like of all time. Like, you know, but for some reason I never really went back to it in a way that I went back to 1 and 3. I know 3 gets a lot of flack for like the way they kind of like shoehorn Venom in, even though he didn't necessarily like fit. Because if you remember, they shoehorned him in probably like a good 30 minutes.
Yeah, they had a bunch of other villains like Sandman and and they had you know, his friend, I forget his name.
Harry,
right?
Yeah, Harry.
He took over the goblins tech and everything like that.
Yeah,
he just going after Spider-Man as well. So,
yeah. Right. So like I said, I'll say for nostalgic purposes, like you know, Spider-Man 1 clearly with Tobey Maguire. What else? Spider-Man 3. I like Spider-Man 3, even though it gets a lot of hate. Like I like Spider-Man 3. You know, that's clearly the Sam Raimi one. And then I also like I do like the one with the lizard also, like Amazing Spider-Man, the first Amazing Spider-Man.
Right.
You know, and then I like Homecoming, and I just recently seen Homecoming, like literally this year. You know, Homecoming, and then after that, this one.
Okay.
You know, so that's Spider-Man 1, Sam Raimi, Spider-Man 3, Sam Raimi, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 1, the first one. Then after that, Homecoming with Tom Holland, and then this one. You know, so those would be like my top 5. Those are my top 5.
Okay.
But other than that, like we look forward to like you know, doing more, you know, reaction videos and everything like that. And you have anything else you want to say?
Like I would say, like it's a if you didn't see it, definitely go see it because it's definitely worth the movie theater experience. Like we went to see it in 3D. You know? Like I don't know what's people's preference on IMAX and stuff like that. We caught an early showing and it happened to be in 3D, and that was pretty cool to see it in 3D. So
yeah, it was definitely nice in 3D. But with that being said, like and subscribe, especially if you like. Yep, and share the video. But with that being said, peace.